One of the things I've really noticed, and it's happening a lot, we're hearing the subject of populism. People go, what does that mean? And we hear words like, we've got to clean the swamp. We hear this kind of language, but again, back to this idea that the world said never again to genocide, and we still have 33 countries facing it. Social inequality and corruption travel together. And so if you're really going to end war and make change, it's not through charity. It's through direct working with the centers of influence in these countries. But while we were in Haiti, an entire boatload of aid that many people had raised funds for with goodwill and intention, right after the hurricane, where they didn't have a mango stick, any water, the boatload of aid was turned away while we were there because the boat didn't have enough of a bribe for the official. And so I learned about the corruption index, the transparency index. And it's very important to us as social entrepreneurs to understand how that fits into our lives. Of 174 countries, the most corrupt would be 174. And so Haiti has improved, but now it's 159. It's still very corrupt. And we look at models like Rwanda, which has really become one of the fastest growing, safest countries in Africa. And what have they done to reduce their corruption? And really what they've done is the kinds of things we need to change in Haiti. So when I go to one country like Rwanda, I try to influence the other countries to try to cross-pollinate that. And as a business person, we have the power to do that. I think we have the responsibility to do that. I don't think we can make our government and military do all the heavy lifting alone, or we're going to stay in the same cycle. So we have to break that cycle. And the only way to do that is to ensure that the centers of influence have supports, and it's really all in front of us. CEDA, the Canadian International Development Agency, Building Markets, the Clinton Foundation, all of these groups are there to serve us. A lot of business people don't know how to reach out to a country, who to work with, how do you pre-qualify a customer or a supplier to know that they're actually a decent, fair person. Well, CEDA's pre-qualified all of them. It's right there for us. So how do we engage? And a lot of business people don't know. How do you engage to find out that you can work with this supplier? It's all right there in our government. And government can't do marketing. They can't really tell you. They don't have the budget. I think we have to be curious as entrepreneurs. We actually have to knock on the doors and say, I'm not okay with the state of the world and I want to do more. And a lot of people want to start a social enterprise. They don't know how. And so I like to walk people through, how do you start a social enterprise? How did I start on my Visa card because the banks wouldn't give me a loan, to now selling across Canada and globally. And you start with looking at the sources and working with your government like CEDA. I flew to Ottawa and met with CEDA. I'd read about this man in Afghanistan. I was growing the legal crops to get farmers off the illegal poppy. And they connected me with the NGO that did the study that proved if you paid $10,000 for a liter of rose oil, $8,000 for a liter of orange, you can get farmers off the illegal poppy crop, which is 90% of the world's heroin. It's in our interest to care. And there he was alone, about to give up, and I started with my Visa card. And now he's doubled his distillery. We've brought buyers from around the world. And his daughter's safe. All the farmers' daughters are safe from the Taliban. One of the things we've learned is that farmers, when they're forced to grow the illegal poppy, the Taliban come along and say, we're going to charge you more for your seed, we're going to charge you more for your fertilizer. But if the crop or the harvest doesn't work, then the Taliban come along and say, your 11-year-old daughter is my opium bride, or $20,000 US. The farmer doesn't have that money. But if the farmer's growing a legal crop, like orange blossom or rose, the crops we buy, or saffron or pomegranate, the Taliban can't come take his daughter. And this is our way as business to be part of the missing link. Otherwise, we're going to stay in this cycle of war and poverty. The only way to break it is social enterprise and to ignite a cavalry of business to come. Buy their saffron, buy their pomegranate, buy anything so they're not beholden to oppressors. And with that comes being loud about policy and ending corruption. We just screened our documentary at Parliament, and the Senate hosted it, and Speaker of the House came. It was very exciting. And I talked about how we have to end corruption and some of the ways that we can. And it was very interesting because policymakers wrote me afterwards and said, you know, we really have to move on this. But I think we have to be a voice. And I think that's where I'm a retail activist. And I think a lot of people want to be retail activists. They want to flex their buying power to make meaningful buying choices. But we also want to tell new stories. And we have to get louder than the fanatics who are cluttering the airwaves with their hate or their ignorance. And it's up to us to actually get bold and tell new stories.